Washington, D.C. was rocked today as Canada, our closest ally, announced sweeping tariffs on American goods, triggering a rapid and furious response from President Trump. The surprise move by Ottawa targeted key U.S. industries, escalating a simmering trade dispute into a full-blown crisis. Within hours, the White House retaliated, threatening decades of economic partnership and sending shockwaves through Wall Street and Main Street alike. Emergency meetings erupted across federal agencies as officials scrambled to assess the fallout. This isn't a distant trade spat. It's a direct confrontation with our largest trading partner, one that shares a deeply integrated economy with the U.S. Canada's decision is a calculated pushback against what it sees as aggressive American protectionism. The president's response, deeply personal and combative, has transformed a policy disagreement into a high-stakes political battle. The result: plunging markets, alarmed business leaders, and bipartisan concern in Congress. The combination of new tariffs and the administration's volatile reaction has created a perfect storm of economic anxiety. As the dust settles, the question is no longer if there will be economic damage, but how severe and for how long. Washington is left reeling, with compromise now seeming nearly impossible. The crisis began with Prime Minister Trudeau's government unveiling significant tariffs on a broad range of American exports. Unlike past disputes, Canada's list is extensive, targeting agriculture, manufacturing, and consumer goods, with a clear focus on politically sensitive U.S. states. Iconic products like Kentucky bourbon, Wisconsin cheese, and Florida oranges are now in the crosshairs, alongside steel and aluminum. The value of affected U.S. goods is estimated in the tens of billions annually. Canadian officials insist this move is defensive, a response to escalating U.S. protectionism and a bid to force fairer negotiations. The strategy inflicts enough economic pain to create a powerful U.S. lobby for change. Canada is the top export market for over 30 U.S. states, and supply chains between the two countries are deeply intertwined. Disrupting this flow threatens not just exporters, but millions of jobs on both sides of the border. This is a high-stakes gamble. Canada is betting that a trade war is less damaging than continued uncertainty. The tariffs mark a dramatic shift in Canada's approach, signaling a new willingness to confront the U.S. head-on. Ottawa's message is clear: Canada will no longer accept unpredictable American trade policy. The U.S.-Canada trade relationship has fundamentally changed overnight. The world is watching to see who blinks first. The stakes for both economies could not be higher. President Trump's reaction was immediate and explosive. He bypassed diplomatic channels, denouncing Prime Minister Trudeau on social media and promising swift, overwhelming retaliation. The president's tone was personal and combative, framing Canada's move as a betrayal. At a hastily arranged press conference, he threatened even heavier tariffs on Canadian goods, but offered no specifics, fueling further uncertainty. Inside the White House, chaos reigned as advisors urged caution, only to be overruled by the president's demand for action. This impulsive, emotional response left little room for negotiation, locking both nations into a cycle of escalation. The administration's lack of a clear strategy alarmed even its supporters. By personalizing the conflict, the president made de-escalation politically difficult for both sides. The U.S. and Canada are now on a collision course, with no off-ramp in sight. In a move that deepened the day's turmoil, the White House fired Erica McIntarfer, Commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just hours after a disappointing jobs report. The timing was unmistakable. Many saw it as retaliation for unwelcome economic news. The BLS, a nonpartisan agency, is designed to be insulated from political pressure. Firing its chief midterm, especially in response to a single data release, is unprecedented and threatens the agency's independence. The White House cited vague claims of mismanagement, but offered no evidence. This act strikes at the foundation of trust in government data, which businesses, the Fed, and lawmakers rely on. The message to civil servants: produce numbers the White House likes, or risk your job. The firing is part of a broader pattern, an administration under pressure, deflecting blame rather than confronting policy challenges. Undermining the referee threatens not just economic stability, but the credibility of the U.S. government itself. The consequences of this breach of norms could be far-reaching. After firing the BLS chief, President Trump accused the agency of deliberately manipulating job statistics, without evidence. He recast routine data revisions as a political conspiracy, ignoring the transparent, well-established process behind them. This attack is part of a broader pattern. The president has repeatedly dismissed official data that contradicts his narrative, labeling it fake or politically motivated. The strategy insulates him from accountability and positions him as the sole arbiter of truth for his supporters. The danger is profound. Undermining trust in impartial institutions erodes the foundation for rational policy debate. When facts become partisan, evidence-based governance collapses. The assault on the BLS is not just about a jobs report. It's a challenge to the principle of objective reality in government. If citizens and businesses can't trust official data, effective policymaking becomes impossible. The long-term consequences for democracy and the economy are dire. The combined impact of the trade dispute and political chaos sent shockwaves through U.S. financial markets. The Dow plunged over 800 points, its worst day of the year, as investors reacted to a toxic mix of trade war fears and attacks on government data. The firing of the BLS chief amplified losses, introducing a new level of political risk. Investors crave stability. The prospect of manipulated data makes it nearly impossible to assess risk. The market's vote of no confidence was clear. The damage spread beyond stocks, the dollar fluctuated wildly, and investors fled to government bonds. Economists warn that uncertainty will chill business investment and hiring, potentially triggering the very slowdown the administration fears. A trade war with Canada means higher costs and inflation. Unreliable data complicates the Fed's response. If the Fed can't trust its numbers, the risk of a policy mistake grows. Today's market chaos is a stark warning. When policy is unpredictable and institutions are undermined, economic stability is at risk. The fallout could last far longer than a single trading day. The stakes for the U.S. economy have never been clearer. The tariff war isn't just headlines. It hits American families and businesses directly. Tariffs are taxes on imports, and those costs are passed to consumers, raising prices on everything from lumber to maple syrup. Lower and middle-income families are hit hardest, as everyday goods become more expensive. For businesses, especially those reliant on Canadian parts or markets, the impact is immediate: higher costs, less competitiveness, and potential job losses. The auto industry, with its cross-border supply chains, faces rising production costs and shrinking sales. Farmers, already struggling, now risk losing access to a vital Canadian market. The uncertainty stifles investment. Small businesses delay expansion, and corporations reconsider U.S. projects. The chilling effect on growth is insidious, eroding the economy's long-term potential. These are the real costs of a trade war, felt in paychecks, prices, and lost opportunities. The damage may not be immediate, but it is inevitable. The longer the dispute drags on, the deeper the pain for ordinary Americans. The administration's actions have drawn sharp condemnation from economists, former officials, and lawmakers across the spectrum. Bill Beach, a former BLS commissioner, warned that politicizing the agency undermines the credibility of data essential for sound policy. Experts stress that without objective statistics, policymaking devolves into partisanship and propaganda. In Congress, calls for hearings and investigations are mounting as lawmakers demand accountability and protection for independent agencies. The integrity of institutions like the BLS is at stake. Once lost, public trust is hard to regain. Today's events are a direct assault on the principle of unbiased information in government. The response from experts and lawmakers is a fight to defend the norms that sustain democracy. Today's events have pushed the U.S. and Canada into uncharted, perilous territory. A trade dispute has become a full-blown crisis, shaking the foundation of a relationship built on trust and economic integration. Canada has abandoned its quiet partnership, confronting U.S. protectionism head-on. The Trump administration has chosen confrontation, escalating the conflict and attacking its own institutions. The immediate fallout: reeling markets, anxious businesses, and higher prices for consumers. The long-term risks are even greater: fractured supply chains, lost jobs, and diminished competitiveness. Undermining trust in government data leaves policymakers flying blind. The U.S. risks isolation, not just from allies, but from the principles of evidence-based governance. The urgent challenge: de-escalate the trade war and restore institutional integrity. The future of the U.S.-Canada alliance and American democracy hangs in the balance.